Hey, y'all, welcome into the Jack Vita Show. I am your host, as always, Jack Vita. We have a very fun episode in store for you all today. Last week, we caught up with Brad Culpepper, 9-year NFL defensive tackle. He also competed on Survivor. And today, we have a guest with a bit of a similar story. He spent 9 years in the National Football League, and then he took his talents to reality television. If you guys enjoy our episode today, make sure you subscribe to the Jack Vita Show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever it is that you get your podcasts. But for now, I want to welcome in former Eagle, former Jaguar, former Patriot, former Lion, former Saint, former XFL Team 9 member, Clay Harbor. Welcome to the show.
Appreciate for having me, Jack. Happy to be here and talk some ball with you here today.
Hey, did I nail that intro? Did I miss any other teams you played on?
I mean, Missouri State University Bear,
Go.
Dwight High School Trojan, Dwight Redbird. I mean, you pretty much hit it all, man.
So you played at Missouri State, and I went to Valparaiso, actually. So I think they were both in the Summit League at the time when you were playing.
Actually, no, we were a Missouri Valley football conference.
Oh.
Well, Missouri Valley Conference. Obviously, we're in the Missouri Valley basketball, Missouri Valley football. Missouri Valley basketball is a little bit more well known, I'd say, than the Missouri Valley football. At least it was. You know, we have some good players in the league these days. Carson Wentz, Dallas Goedert, most of them from North Dakota State, obviously, but you know, we got some players out there from the Missouri Valley.
Well, I know that were they in the Summit League for basketball at the time, or other sports?
I was there. No.
Oh, okay.
When I was, but I also graduated back in 2009, 2008.
Okay, so it may have been a little. I thought they were in the Summit League at one point, but I know that now they're in the Missouri Valley, as is Valpo. Valpo is not for football. Valpo is one of 10 Division I teams that puts zero money into their program and has a non-scholarship football team. So if our teams met, you guys would have absolutely killed us.
We weren't very good, but I appreciate the you saying that. So.
But basketball, I mean, it'd be interesting for basketball. Both teams are pretty competitive. I don't know if you keep up with the Valley at all.
Yeah, I do. The Valley, man, they've just lost so many of their good teams to other conferences. Back when I was there, you know, you had the Creighton, the Wichita State. You know, now we still got Bradley, Missouri State. Now we got Loyola Chicago, but we had a lot of good teams. You know, Evansville. That really moved to different conferences.
Yeah, and Loyola Chicago's leaving soon too.
Are they?
I think they're going A-10.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunate because it's tough because I mean I love the Valley, but it's basically a stepping stone for a lot of these teams to come to the Valley. They show they're competitive in the Valley, and they end up going to a bigger conference.
Now, Clay, I know that when you were at Missouri State, you switched your position. You came in as a wide receiver, and you moved over to tight end. Is that correct?
Yep, I came in as a wide out. I was a skinny 200-pound wide receiver, and well, that's actually decent size for a receiver. But I gained 52 pounds in college, and by the time I was done in college, I it was a tight end, and I was 252. So that was my combine weight, and I always thought that was funny. It was actually like 198 pounds, so I gained 54 pounds in college.
Well, in other words, you'd have an easy time stuffing me as a 5'10", 170-pound guy. You'd have an easy time stuffing me in a locker if you.
Yeah. I was never that guy though. I was always nice to everybody. You know?
Yeah. No, I'm sure that's the truth, Clay. You're a good guy. Okay, so I know you watched a lot of NFL this weekend, and I guess I'm curious, where would you like to start? And actually, I'll start with this. Who's your team? I mean, I know you played on a lot of teams. You grew up in Illinois. What team or teams are you typically rooting for on Sundays?
Okay, well, there's 3 teams that I typically watch. I mean, I watch more than that. I like all the games. I feel like I have a lot of connections in the league. And but my 3 main teams, I would say, is I grew up a huge Bears fan. My dad was a Bears fan, is a Bears fan. My whole family, my brother, everybody, we were all Bears fans being from Illinois. So I love to watch the Bears just because that's the team I grew up with and my family and everybody. But obviously, the Bears aren't that good this year. I like to watch the Eagles since I played there for 4 years, and the Birds and our actual team in the playoffs. I've been watching a lot more of the Birds, and that's typically a team that I watch. And the Jaguars played in Jacksonville for 3 years. I like the Jaguars a lot, but I mean they're just in a tough spot, and they haven't won many games. But I like all teams. Like I watched the Chiefs because Coach Reed was the coach who drafted me. I like Coach Reed. I watch. I played with the Patriots for a while. A lot of the guys are still there, so I like watching the Patriots. I feel a connection there. The Saints, a lot of the guys I was there with, so I still feel a connection there. But if there's a good game on, I like to watch it.
Well, the Bears actually had a good one yesterday.
Yeah, wow, man. I don't know if you sports bet, but I did a dumb move in the sports. I took the Bears money line, and when they were getting trounced, I got out of the bet. You can cash out, and then I'm watching it. I'm like, there's no way they win this game. They end up coming back and winning the game, and that was they were a huge underdog, so that would have been a nice little win there for me. But it was good to see Nick Foles. Nick Foles was a good buddy of mine back in my Philly days. He was one of my favorite players there in Philadelphia, and it's always good. It's always good to see him get an opportunity. And when he got named a starter, people are clowning me on Twitter. I said I'm so glad to see Nick Foles get another start. There's no harder worker in the game, and honestly I think that he's a good quarterback. I mean, I know he's not going to do anything crazy, but I think if you have a good defense, you have a good run game, Nick Foles can do some good things with you. I know in Jacksonville he had a tough time, and then he did win that Super Bowl in Philly and had some really good numbers. So if you look at his career numbers, he's got 90 rating, a lot more touchdowns, interceptions. I think he's a guy that can still play football in this league, and I'm hoping yesterday proved that. There's a lot of teams out there, if you see, looking for a decent quarterback. Would love to have Nick Foles play for him. So I'm glad he got that opportunity, and hope that this will lead to a longer career.
Now, the Bears, of course, get the victory. Long road trip all the way out to Seattle. I think it was 25-24. They went for 2 at the end of the game, and they ended up winning a game in the snow. It was honestly, like, I don't say this often when I watch the Bears, but this was a really fun game to watch. And I truly, I'm actually a Steelers fan, even though I live here in Chicago. But I do watch most Bears games, maybe not every single game, but I watch most of their games, almost all of their games, with my family. And Clay, I got to tell you, I thought that yesterday was the best that their offense looked all season.
Okay, I'm going to say a couple things, and I'm not saying this can't change, but I think Justin Fields is not very good right now. I'm not saying that can't change, but watching him,
I agree with you, by the way.
He's not good at all. And I know people in Chicago don't want to hear that, but right now, Justin Fields is a bad quarterback. He's not reading the ball. He's late on his throws. He's not making his progressions. He's very athletic. He can make up with some things doing that, but it's basically like you have a running back there. And I mean, it's tough for a team when you have no threat of a consistent passing game. We got a good running game. I think we got one of the best. The Bears got one of the best running backs in the league. I've said it before, and I'll say that again. I think that good running game, and if you got a decent passing game, I know it didn't work early on in the season, but hey, I think that the team looked good, and I think that it's unfortunate that they play a game like this late in the year, because if this was something that happened early in the year, I think maybe they could have used this as a springboard to see what they're really good at.
Now, Clay, I know you don't pay too much attention in the world of college football, but I was recently thinking about how there hasn't been one really good quarterback to come out of Ohio State. It's just it hasn't happened. I mean, can you think of one?
When we drafted, everybody's going crazy. We got Justin Fields. I go, Cardell Jones. I mean, we've had obviously
Troy Smith,
Dwayne
Haskins.
There's been
Craig Krenzel back to the Bears days of the 2000s.
they just never have. I don't care what their stats look like in college. For whatever reason, they're just not. Performing in the league. And if you look at Haskins, JT Barrett,
Oh, right.
JT Barrett, and then Fields, I mean, you got a lot of similarities between those guys. And then, Braxton Miller,
Terrell Pryor.
I mean, these are a lot of the same guys. And so I'm wondering, why were they so sold on this? Can we pause for a second?
Yeah, you're good, man. Some of you are watching us live right now on Twitter. That's okay. Clay's got someone knocking on his door. He's going to take care of that, and then we'll be good.
No, sorry about that, man. I wasn't.
No, it's all good, man. Don't worry about it. We're live on Twitter, but the Twitter crowd, I only go live on Twitter because people on Twitter have a short attention span. So the idea is they start watching this and they're like, okay, I'm going to listen to this whole thing later so I can cut this out. So we're good.
No, I didn't know that my cousin was coming over for a bit. I didn't know he was getting here this early. So I apologize about that, Twitter crowd.
No worries.
But anyways, I do think it's weird about the Ohio State deal. It's like their quarterbacks just never seem to pan out.
I was thinking about it a little bit, and I was just thinking, the thing with Justin Fields is he looks like, to me, as I watch him, there's something, it's like he didn't develop the way that I would like a guy to grow in college. And I was thinking, because he's playing at Ohio State, where, yes, they're playing in the Big Ten and they're playing great defenses, but, he's got one of the best offensive lines in the country. He had arguably the best or the second best receiving core in the country last year. And I just think that, let's just say he's playing at Purdue or he's playing at another school, even at a high level of competition. I'm not trying to knock Big Ten or anything like that. I'm just saying that for whatever reason with Ohio State, it just seems like what we're seeing is the guy's extremely talented, but you mentioned reading, processing, going to his second option. That's where he needs improvement. And I just don't know how that gets better at the professional level. It can get better, but I didn't think they should have thrown him out there as early as they did.
They listen to the team. They listen to the fans. There was a huge here in Chicago. There was a huge outcry. We lost a couple games. We're still in the hunt. Justin Fields came in and had a couple nice plays, but I mean, that's what he maybe should have been doing, was coming in here and there, spot play, get a little bit of experience and sit. Look at Aaron Rodgers. 3 years he got to sit behind Brett Favre before he even played, at all. So I think they really dropped the ball there. And honestly, I think they dropped the ball bringing in Andy Dalton. You have Andy Dalton on the roster. His name's Nick Foles. I mean, you look at these guys' numbers, they're the exact same. Maybe Dalton's a little bit more mobile than Foles. But, I mean, I think you already have Andy Dalton. I mean, his name's Nick Foles, and I didn't really understand the move bringing that guy in. And then you draft a first-round quarterback. Now you got these three quarterbacks all getting paid decent contracts. And, I mean, that has to be an interesting meeting room. I know Foles is a guy that's not going to cause any problems. He's a very nice. He's a Christian. He's going to do whatever he can to help the team. I know Andy Dalton's very similar. But if you have a normal locker room with guys, that's going to get a little chippy in there. You got three guys that have played and had success in this league. Well, two guys, and you got a first-round rookie. It was all a little bit interesting to me to see what the plan was. And looking at it now, there was no plan, obviously. There was no plan at all. And I think Nagy's going to pay for it with his job, at the end of this year. And I like Nagy. Nagy was a guy that I played with in Philly. He was my quality control guy. When I was in Philadelphia, Nagy was basically the glorified assistant of all the coaches. It's called quality control. They basically do all the work. They're running scripts back and forth. They're typing up scripts. They're typing up coverages for all the plays. I'd be like, before practice, I'm like, hey, Nags, you want to go out and throw me 50 passes before practice? Yeah, I got you, Clay. Before a game, like, Nags, let's go. We're going to go I need someone to throw me some passes. Nagy played in CFL, Canadian Football League, back that guy actually has a good arm, throwing a lot of passes. And I like the guy a lot. He was always a super nice, super genuine guy. When he got the job, I'm like, wow, Matt Nagy, like my guy that used to throw me passes before practice is a head coach. That's what you see happening in the league. It's crazy to think that all these guys, they're head coaches now. Doug Peterson was a quarterback coach at Philly. He was just a nice guy. You joke around with him. He's a quarterback coach, and he's a head coach. Head coach for the Eagles. Now he's interviewing for the job with the Jaguars. It all happens quick. But to go back to our statement, I don't think Nagy really had a plan, and I think Fields. I really don't think he's the guy. I hope he is. I hope he can improve. But just from what I've seen and my experience in football, he's not the guy that I think that will be the quarterback for Chicago Bears.
Clay, what do you think happens next with the Bears here? I mean, there's a lot of talk about Nagy potentially losing his job. Is Ryan Pace the GM? Is he going to lose his job? What do you think is going to happen here? What needs to happen?
I think Nagy's gone for sure. I'm not sure about Pace. Pace, it depends on his his relationship with the ownership. I think that Nagy's probably done for. And I think that, they invested a first-round pick on Fields. So are they married to Fields?
Actually.
Yeah. Are they married to him? They have to stick with Fields at this point for another year maybe. So I think this next year is going to be, them trying to maybe find a guy that believes in Fields and thinks that he can be the guy. Because at what you paid for him, it'd be a shame now to just, cut and run after he's only had a few starts. I really don't think he's the guy, but I think you got to give him another opportunity next year.
Yeah, I think it's really a messy situation because I think Ryan Pace has really – I think Ryan Pace is the root of a lot of the problems that the Bears have because he's overpaid for so many of these guys. He didn't just give up one first-round pick. He traded – 2 first-round picks, one's that's going to probably be a top 10 pick in this next draft to move up 10 spots, and they gave up a 3rd-round pick, and I think there was another 5th-round pick in that. Did the same thing with Trubisky to move up to get Trubisky, gave up a lot of picks. And I think this team's in a spot right now where you just kind of look at in terms of cap flexibility, and I just don't really know how it gets better. I feel like, but at the same time, he's tied to Fields. He just went all in on Fields. So you have to give Fields. You can't just give up on Fields at this time. I just don't know how it gets better. I feel like the Bears have been, 10 years ago, they fired Jerry Angelo. And I think most Bears fans would love to go back to where they were at with Jerry Angelo than post Jerry Angelo, post Lovie Smith.
Yeah, I think they need to go a new direction. Pace has had some bad moves. Obviously, the Fields giving up, the first rounder this year, and then Trubisky too. And honestly, Trubisky wasn't as bad as people made him out to be. If you look at Trubisky versus numbers versus Fields numbers, Trubisky looks like he's a Pro Bowl player.
He was
speaking, but yeah. So. I don't know what to say about the moves Pace has been making. I love David Montgomery. I think they got a guy there that would be a good back for a while, but I think they're wasting him and his talent on, some just subpar quarterbacks. And then receiving wise, I love Allen Robinson. I love Mooney. I just think they probably need a better quarterback.
Now, I found it very interesting because we're watching this game, and I thought it was a good game. I thought it was a fun game. I love watching games in the snow. I think that's always a lot of fun. I don't know what your thoughts were playing in the snow. It might be a little different than watching it, but it's always good television. And it was really interesting because you have this Bears team that's 5-10 now. And then on the other side of things, you got the Seahawks team that's 5-10, very disappointing for a lot of people. And of course, there was the rumor that the Bears offered 3 first-round picks, a 3rd-round pick, and 2 starters for Russell Wilson before the season. And I'm just watching Russell Wilson in this game, and I've watched him for much of the season, and I'm really curious what his future is going to hold with this organization.
Russell doesn't look like the same player either. It's very interesting to me because I don't know what happened with him, but he he's regressed. I know he's dealing with some injury stuff, and I'm hoping that's it. I've always liked Russell Wilson. He seems like a great guy. He's he's a man of faith. He always puts that out there. He just he does a lot of things for the community. And I like Russell Wilson as a person, as a player. I've always liked him, but he just doesn't seem like the same guy. I don't know if he came back too soon from this injury. I'm hoping he can get back to his his self he was, a couple years back. But right now, Russell Wilson is not looking like the Pro Bowl, All-Pro quarterback that he's been in the past. And the Seahawks aren't looking good either. DK Metcalf, isn't looking like the guy that everybody thought he would be. Obviously, he had the big touchdown. He had a couple good catches against the Bears, but if you look at his numbers these last 8 games, it's not been good. So, I mean, that's not good for the Seahawks, because those two guys are guys that they've really invested in and think that are going to be big time contributors to their team. And then you got Pete Carroll. Obviously his job's safe for a couple of years, what he's shown out there, but I know he can't be happy, and it's probably got to be thinking what's going on with some of these guys.
Yeah, I really think that the more I watch Russell Wilson this year, but it was also last year. I mean, last year he really dropped off in the second half, and I felt like 2018 was really the best year I remember seeing him have. And I think since then he's gradually gone down a little bit. And I think as I watch him, I think he's age 33, age 34. He's reminding me a little bit of where Donovan McNabb was at this point of his career, where he started to lose a little bit of the athleticism and the mobility, and he really declined sort of quickly. Now, I'm not saying that that's going to happen to Russ, because McNabb, I mean, he got traded before he got to Philly, right?
Yeah, he got traded right before I got to Philly. The year I got drafted, He got traded. We had Kevin Cobb and Michael Vick.
The thing I watch my concern would be for these guys who are the mobile quarterbacks, where you look at Russ and his skill set is that he's so fast, he's so athletic. And one of the things I'm watching yesterday, and I've watched this year, is early in his career, he's always been good at avoiding sacks. He's always been good at ducking, shifting, spinning. And I don't see that same kind of shiftiness. And I think we've seen more of those bad sacks being taken. I think that he's losing that part of that game. Whereas a guy who's a traditional pocket passer and is based on not as much on athleticism, like the Drew Brees, obviously Brees is and Brady and, some of these guys who are playing in their 40s. Peyton had a nice long career, and those are some of the greats. But I do think that there's less of, I think I'd have more confidence if I'm a team that's going to invest in a quarterback. I guess what I'm saying is Russell could get traded. There's also rumors that Kirk Cousins could get traded. We'll see what actually happens, but I'd have a little more confidence investing in a traditional pocket passer at this stage of their careers than I would a guy who's been a shifty scrambler.
Yeah, I think Kirk Cousins has had a heck of a year. Obviously, they just lost yesterday, and I was looking for a little bit better. I know they're playing against the Rams. I was looking for a little bit better of a game out of them, out of Kirk Cousins and then the Vikings, knowing that they're in this playoff hunt. And that was disappointing. But they were playing against a good team. But his numbers look great. A lot of touchdowns, a few interceptions. I mean, a lot of yards. And obviously they got a great running game. And I thought the Vikings were definitely going to be a team that nobody's going to want to see come playoff time. I'd be more inclined to trade for a guy like Kirk Cousins if you put the right running game, the right defense around him, than, like you said, a Russell Wilson. Russell just hasn't looked the same. If you look at this year, I mean, you look at what have he done for me lately? Obviously you've seen Russell's pass, and hopefully you can get back to that guy. But Cousins is doing has a pretty good year this year, and if you look at the numbers, it's actually very impressive.
Yeah, and I also think Matthew Stafford's going to have – I mean, I know he's around that same age. I think Stafford's got – I know he took a beating in Detroit. I think he's got a lot of good years ahead of him, too. On that other side, we're talking about the Rams-Vikings game.
Yeah, Stafford looks like you see it with the pocket passing guys. They can play in this league for – I mean, look at Tom Brady. Was he 44?
Yeah.
The guy's about to be 45 years old. You can't be serious. I mean, 50 years old, still in contention for the MVP. The guy might be the MVP this year at 44 years old. If you're a pocket passer with a decent offensive line, all you got to do is throw the ball. As long as you're still mentally sharp and crisp and can throw, obviously you saw a guy like Peyton Manning, arm strength started to fade, getting a lot of injuries. But if you can take care of your body, you can play until your upper 30s for sure. And if you're a mobile guy that uses his speed and elusiveness a lot, obviously your body's going to start catching up to you in your mid 30s, and that's hard. So there's a difference of about 5 years of longevity on those guys. You see a guy like Russell Wilson, we're just talking about a guy like you saw what happened. You're saying Donovan McNabb, Michael Vick. And when a lot of their athleticism starts to fade, a lot of their performance goes down.
Now, I know that rookie year you had, Clay. You mentioned Michael Vick. I want to bring this up. Your rookie year was that 2010 Eagles season. You guys won the NFC East. Michael Vick had an MVP caliber season. Unfortunately, didn't get any MVP votes. Brady ended up winning the award. But that was just, I remember that was my junior year of high school. And I can remember that season vividly. I think it probably for Eagles fans especially, they remember that season extremely well. Would that be, I know you spent 9 years in the league. Was that the most fun you had on a team, Clay?
That was a lot of fun. That year was a lot of fun. We made the playoffs. We ended up losing to the Packers in the wild card game by 4. I'm sorry, and we had the ball at the 20-yard line, 15 maybe, and we threw an interception in the end zone to lose the game. Guess who won the Super Bowl that year?
That would be the Packers. They beat my Steelers.
Team that beat us, and we always thought that if we would have won that game, that could have been us that made it to the Super Bowl. And they ended up seeing the Packers, team we had on the ropes. All we needed was that touchdown. But that was a fun year. It's a fun year. That was the Miracle in the Meadowlands Part 2.
Yeah, my gosh. Yeah. That game. You guys were down, was it 28-7 in the fourth quarter?
Yeah, we came back and won. That was incredible. And I wasn't a big part of that team. I probably had 10 catches, played on special teams. But being around the guys, being a part of that team was an incredible time. And that's memories I'll tell my grandkids one day. You got Deshaun Jackson, LaShawn McCoy, Monday Night Football. We're playing against the Washington Redskins. First play of the game, I got to block Brian Arakpo. I lost sleep that night. Dude, I got to block Arakpo off the edge one-on-one. What is this? Who do they call him? A rookie tight end. We end up throwing a bomb to Deshaun Jackson. He runs it in for a touchdown. Just incredible feeling. The stadium is just quiet. You can hear a pin drop. LaRon Landry and Deshaun Jackson got into a fight before the game. They're arguing back and forth, just stuff like that. That season was like a movie. It was like a show. I feel like it was like if you ever watched the show with The Rock, Ballers.
Haven't seen it, but I've heard good things.
Yeah, it's literally like a movie and a show. And that season was incredible with Vic and the guys. And we had so many personalities, just made it really fun.
Yeah, for those who don't remember, they were down 28-7 in the Meadowlands against the Giants. Giants were good that year. They were one of the only teams to win 10 games and miss the playoffs that year. Or that's actually happened in NFL history. It's only happened a few times. And you guys were down 28-7, came back, and then Deshaun Jackson returns a punt, which he actually, people might forget, he muffed the punt. Then he picks it back up and runs for a touchdown. Were you on the field for that play?
I was on the field for that play. Every time somebody posted, I always repost it just out of nostalgia. And it was a fun play, man. I blocked my guy. I did my part, I guess. And the biggest part about that game, and the winner of that game won the NFC East. So that's how we won the NFC East that year. It was pretty incredible. The celebration in the locker room afterwards was pretty great.
Did you notice when he muffed it? Did you see that? Or were you blocking somebody and you didn't get to see that part?
I didn't get to see it. I was just like, what's taking him so long to get moving? I was like, maybe we catch the ball, we run out of bounds, and we try to throw a Hail Mary,
I was always wondering, I mean, let me hear what you think of this. I was always kind of wondering because I remember he returned that for a touchdown, of course, as time expires, the Eagles win. And there were a couple other times, I can't remember specific examples, but I've seen a couple times where a punt or a kick gets dropped and then everyone kind of scrambles for the ball and the guy ends up running for a touchdown. I was just curious if you think that if Deshaun muffing that punt changes the way that I know it's all happening so fast. if a defense is like, oh, fumble, we got to go crazy for this fumble, and then when they see the ball on the ground, it's easier to run it back. I don't know.
Absolutely, that's what happens, man. It's like you lose your lane integrity. You see the ball on the ground, you kind of lose your lane integrity. You go after this ball, and then it adds. It basically makes you be more patient. Lets you set up different blocks, and you lose your lane integrity on defense. You want to go after the ball. You see the ball on the ground. It's like, oh, ball's on the ground. So then, as soon as he broke a couple of those tackles at first, like, uh-oh, this is gonna be bad news for the Giants, and then nobody's catching that guy. Yeah, it's incredible.
And Michael Vick, he had played on the team a year before that, so you weren't there right when he came into the locker room. But I remember that first game of the season, it was against the Packers, right? You guys were playing the Packers. Kevin Cobb gets injured.
Yeah. I was playing that game, yeah.
What was that?
Yeah, I remember that game. I was playing that game. I had a holding call that game. I did. I had a holding shady touchdown, right? Shady scored a touchdown. I got called for holding. They brought the ball back. Luckily, we scored on that drive, so I wasn't like, the reason we lost that game. But yeah, I remember that.
So Vic comes in that game, and then he ends up starting the rest of the year. I picked him up in fantasy, and he won me my fantasy league that year. And he was just such a fantastic redemption story. I know Coach Dungy was mentoring him when he was in prison. And, there have been a lot of times where people don't want to give guys like a Michael Vick a second chance.
Yeah.
What was it like being teammates with him? Was he a good dude? What was that like?
Mike is a good guy, man. He was always a little bit to himself, a little bit. He had his own little crew, but he was always great with the guys. He's a good guy in the huddle, good guy in the locker room. Everybody looked up to him and loved his story as well. He was a leader. Everybody knew how talented he was, and yeah, he's definitely a guy that you would go into battle with every week.
And then, of course, we talked about the glory of 2010. We have to discuss what went wrong in 2011. Team went crazy. Well, not went crazy, but they made some bold moves, brought in a lot of great talent in the offseason. Mad hype. You got backup quarterback Vince Young calling it the dream team. And then you guys ended up going 8-8, missing the playoffs. Some have called it the nightmare team. What do you think went wrong with that team?
That's a good question. I think honestly we had a lot of injuries. We had some injuries on the O-line. Our linebacking core wasn't the best. Our D-line was okay, but offense wasn't the same offense for whatever reason. We had a lot of turnovers. It was crazy because we'd be doing well, and then we'd turn the ball over in the red zone. It was just like the same thing would happen week after week, and probably like 3 games. We would turn the ball over a few times in the red zone. You think about it, these 3 games, instead of being 8-8, you're 11-5. So these couple games here and there, and then the next thing you know, if we win one more game, we're 9-7 and we're in the playoffs. And people aren't saying it's like, oh, a nightmare team. 2 more games, 10-6. You have a chance. You're really, you're a solid team. So it's a game of inches, man. And whatever happened that year, it was just always seemed like there was something going wrong. Michael Vick goes down. We have Vince come in for a few games, and we didn't play so well with Vince in Seattle, and then Vince and the Giants. He ended up beating the Giants, and I just had some bad luck. I remember I dropped a pass in Seattle on Thursday Night Football. Vince Young. There was a lane there. I make one guy miss. I could probably score a touchdown. Might win in that game. Stuff like that was happening that year. It's crazy.
Clay, this past week, I think it was this past week, Eagles running back Miles Sanders tweeted, "Stop booing players." He tweeted that to the fans. As someone who spent 3 years playing in Philadelphia, what is your viewpoint on fans booing players?
I think it's something you gotta, if you're not winning, you gotta realize they're gonna boo you. I think that that second and third year in Philly, the third year when we went 4-12, 5-11, every day booing. There was Fire Andy chants. We would literally drive into the NovaCare complex, which is our practice facility. There'd be picketers, like they're picketing, like they're picketing a company that's like dumping pollution into the ocean or something. They're picketing us. to fire our coaching staff and our GM because they were unhappy. I mean, that's Philadelphia. You got to realize that's where you're playing. The fans are passionate. You love to play for a passionate fan base. But if you're not performing, they're going to boo you. And sometimes it seems like it could be fickle because they're cheering you one minute. Oh, you won a game. Next minute, they're booing you. You're the worst in the world. But you got to, as a player, you got to zone all that out. You shouldn't even hear it. I don't agree with that statement. If a fan wants to boo, if they want to cheer, hey, they paid their money to be there. They're paying your salary. They can do whatever they want. Your job is to play your best and put a winning product on the field for them. So I understand both sides, but I never would have said don't boo their fans. It's a part of the game.
Now, Clay, I didn't play football growing up. I did play baseball, and I actually took some coaching classes in college. And one of the things that I thought was really interesting in one of the coaching psychology or coaching philosophy classes was basically this idea of if you're coaching a football team, maybe you're yelling and screaming and get your team pumped up a little more. In baseball, a sport like baseball, you want more of a calming presence. It's a 162 game season. The game happens very slowly. You're only getting 4 at bats a game. And I know we saw, like, for instance, Javi Baez was getting booed earlier this season or this past season when he got traded over the Mets. And he and Francisco Lindor were doing the thumbs up or thumbs down thing to the fans because they didn't like being booed. I was curious I feel like in a baseball situation, I could understand it a little more where it's not going to be productive for the players. I'm just curious, though, if that's something that you or other players feed off of when you get booed, where it motivates you to get out there and to, I don't know, bash some heads.
When you're getting booed in an away game, it kind of motivates you because it's like you versus them. And there's definitely a different feeling there. When you're getting booed at home in front of your fans, I mean, I think that's what Miles Sanders was saying. It's a little bit different feeling because you're playing for these people. This is your city, and you're still getting booed. So it's a different feeling there. But for me, I never minded. I just said, hey, it doesn't matter to me what the crowd is. To me, I said, there is no crowd. I'm just playing this game just like it's practice. Try to do everything just like it would be practice and zone everything else out.
Now, in 2012, your last year with the Eagles, that was Nick Foles' rookie season. You mentioned that you got to spend a lot of time with him that year. Are you guys still friends to this day?
Yeah, we'll text occasionally. Obviously he lives in Chicago too, but yeah, back when in Philly, we were really good buddies. Not so close anymore. Obviously, he's really busy over there at Hallis Hall, but yeah, he's a good guy and a guy I'll always consider a friend.
Did he watch you on The Bachelorette?
Didn't ask. I hope not.
Okay, more on that to come. One of the other stories from this weekend, Clay, that I think is really interesting, the Cincinnati Bengals arriving a year ahead of schedule. They're in position to win the AFC North. They just embarrassed Baltimore yesterday. The Browns lost this weekend. My Steelers are really I think they're just an average team. I don't think maybe in these expanded playoffs they can sneak in there, but they're not going to do anything. The Cincinnati Bengals are the class of the AFC North this year, and I'm going to expect that to be the case for the next couple of years moving forward. They got something very special there with Joe Burrow.
Yeah, Burrow's great, and I feel like they got a lot of weapons too. The Bengals have a lot of weapons. I haven't got to watch them live a lot, but I've just seeing the highlights and everything. I think that they're a young team, and the sky's the limit, especially with a quarterback like Burrow. Guy threw for 525 yesterday, the 4th highest total in NFL history. Right after the opposing defensive coordinator said he's not fitting Joe Burrow for a green jacket anytime soon for the Hall of Fame. So I think that's pretty funny. That he literally was saying that, and then Joe Burrow throws up the fourth highest total in yards that has ever been thrown in NFL history. So maybe you might want to rethink that. But the Bengals are looking good. Sorry for the rest of the North over there, but it's good. It's good for them. Cincinnati. I mean, it's been a while since they've had a really good team. Obviously, back in the Andy Dalton, Chad Ochocinco, TJ Houshmandzadeh days, they were a solid team. But I think this team with Burrow can be even better than the Dalton Carson Palmer days.
Yeah, the Carson Palmer era was really upended by that. I think he tore his ACL in that playoff game against the Steelers. The bad hit from Kimo von Oelhoffen went low on him, and that really ruined their chances, that little era that they had there. And they went with Andy Dalton, and they had this team where it was always good, but they couldn't win. They couldn't break through. They couldn't win a playoff game.
Yeah.
I think this team is going to. It might not happen this year, but I think they're going to win. They could win a couple playoff games over these next couple of years. I think we're gonna, depending on how they build the rest of their team, I think they're in a great position where when you have a quarterback playing at the level that Joe Burrow is playing at on a rookie contract, you can save a lot of money. So they have a window here the next 2-3 years where they can really capitalize on having a guy who could end up being a top 10, top 5 type quarterback in this league. I really think that this is the start of something very special in Cincinnati.
And minus the Chiefs, I mean, the AFC is wide open. I mean, people thought the Patriots were coming into their own there, but they just lost a couple games here. The Bills are solid. They just beat the Patriots, obviously, but I think the AFC is wide open. There's no, Baltimore started hot without Lamar Jackson. I think that they're not the same team. I think that the AFC is wide open, and that it's a good spot for the Bengals to be in because I mean, they can make it to the AFC Championship game easily. Not easily, but you could see it happening.
Yeah, it could definitely happen. What were your other takeaways from this weekend of football, Clay?
Obviously, I watched the Eagles game. I thought that was they're playing against a horrendous Giants team, but they're in a position to make the playoffs. I don't think many people are going to want to see them in the playoffs. They one of the best rushing teams in the league. Jalen Hurts is playing better and better. I think the big game with the Patriots and the Bills. I think that was telling. The Patriots aren't the team that's going to run away with the division again. They could have clinched, and the Bills won. I thought that the Chiefs are back. Obviously they weren't playing against a great team, but I think that they put up a dominating performance. Won by 20. Then you like you said, you got the Bengals. I mean, that's obviously a takeaway there too. So I think you're starting to see a lot of things take shape, and it's fun. I mean, I love the end of the season of football. I think it doesn't get much better than that. And then if you watch the Cowboys last night, I think that they might actually win a playoff game this year. It's possible. So we'll see what happens with them. Obviously, they're playing against the Washington football team with Taylor Heineke, but still, I mean, they put up 50, and they looked great. Dak looked good. Defense looked good. I mean, if they can put it all together, they can win a playoff game for sure.
Clay, you mentioned the Eagles. Jalen Hurts, I think, is pretty good. I think a lot of people, it's actually interesting. We talk about Ohio State quarterbacks struggling to find success in this league. If you were buying stock, you could have bought low on the Alabama quarterback room from just a few years ago when they had Jalen Hurts, Tua Tagovailoa, and Mac Jones. And I thought coming into the season, there were so many guys who, I mean, there were a lot of fans and media and whatever that a lot of people are like, oh, Mac Jones, he's a game manager. He's not that good. I mean, Mac Jones, they've won 9 games, and maybe some people think he isn't that good. I think he's pretty good. He's very accurate. Tua was someone that was just getting crapped on, like all these fictional trades. Oh, they're going to trade Tua. It's going to happen. They should trade him. He's not that good. And they've won 6 straight, and they got a big game tonight against the Saints. And then we've seen a lot with Jalen Hurts this year in Philly. I think all 3 of those guys could end up having a pretty good career.
I think so. I think Tua, people are saying all this stuff about Tua. I go back to the numbers. I look at his numbers. I go, this guy's a solid quarterback, and it's his second year. He's coming back from an injury. I go, what do they want from these guys?
Yeah.
I go, it's crazy. Tua is a good player. I like Tua. Obviously, Hurts has been up and down, but he's a Pro Bowl alternate. People have gotten after me. I haven't criticized Hurts, but I think some of the Eagles fans think that this guy's Joe Montana. And I'm like, he's got a lot of work. I think he's a good quarterback. I don't think he's Joe Montana yet. I think you got to realize this guy's got a lot of work to do still. And then Mac Jones, I think he's in a great system. The Patriots are going to put him in a great position to win. You got Josh McDaniel, in my opinion, is the best coordinator in football. I think that he's accurate. He's good for the Patriots system. I don't think he's gonna, set the world on fire, but I think they can win with him. I'm not sure he's the long-term solution there, like everybody's saying. He's going to be the next, Tom Brady, be there for 15.
Yeah,
20
but
years.
no one's Tom Brady. That's the thing.
He's a rookie, and he's been playing great, and what he's been doing is impressive. So I think that quarterback room is incredible. I don't know if have we ever seen a quarterback room like that? I mean, in college, NFL, you had Steve Young and Joe Montana.
I'll give you one for college. You mentioned Steve Young, Jim McMahon and Steve Young at BYU. That was a pretty good one. I mean, there are some others. I mean, USC had, I think Mark Sanchez was probably that crossed over with Matt Leinart at one point, but those guys weren't great pro players. They were great college players.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, the BYU one. I mean, that's one thing I think it was kind of crazy when people are like, Zach Wilson can't be good because he's from BYU. And that's another one where I'm like, let's pump the brakes. Let's see what this guy is a year or two. That's a really bad team. It's a tough situation to walk
he's
into.
Not looking good, but I'm hoping he can turn it around.
Yeah, and I think with Wilson, I do think he's going to end up being good. I was pretty high on him coming into the league. But I just thought
you got to win.
Yeah, he did. He ran for a long touchdown yesterday, too.
50-yard touchdown. I mean, obviously you're playing the Jaguars. I mean, I love my Jaguars, but they're not doing so right now.
It's funny, though, with Zach Wilson is people are like, oh, well, he went to BYU. He can't be good. They're no good quarterbacks from BYU. I'm like, you ever heard of Jim McMahon or Steve Young or the fact that BYU won a national championship in 1984?
Yeah, you can find quarterbacks from – I mean, I don't think it matters. I think you can find good players in Division I AA, Division II. Obviously, Carson Wentz isn't crazy good. He had a great game on Saturday, and he's from North Dakota State. You got guys. Joe Flacco won a Super Bowl from Delaware. You'll find guys from wherever.
Yeah, I mean it's the beauty of sports. They'll find you wherever they play, and you came from the FCS. You played at Missouri State, and you were a 4th-round pick, and that doesn't happen too often, but it happens.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's tougher to do that. You have to get some numbers. You have to have some numbers, and then you also have to test well. I feel like in the big conferences, you can either have one or the other. In FCS, you have to do both. You have to test well, and you have to have the numbers.
So what pro day did you work out at?
Well, I went to the combine, and I did some stuff at the pro day. I just ran my 40 again, improved on my 40 time, because I was very disappointed in that. And then I think that's all I did. I literally ran a 40 and ran in-call passes. Everything else was at the combine, yeah.
Anything else on current NFL stuff, or you want to get to some other? If you got anything else, let me know. We can move on, though.
I'm good.
All right, Clay. So 9 years in the NFL. You played with some really good quarterbacks. I mean, we mentioned Mike Vick. Nick Foles won a Super Bowl. Jacksonville, you played with some quarterbacks there. But no, you did play with Tom Brady, Matthew Stafford, Drew Brees. Which of those guys was, in terms of just being which one of those guys do you felt, I know you weren't there too long with those teams, which of those guys did you feel was the best leader of a locker room?
I would say, obviously you can't say Tom Brady, anything but Tom Brady, because this guy, we're in training camp and OTAs. And I'm like, is he serious? Like, this guy's really this pissed off? He's acting like we're in the playoffs right now about some 7-on-7, and we're in OTAs. He's cussing. He's like, we got to get this, I'm like, wow, this guy is legit, man. He's just an ultra competitor. And Stafford, love Stafford. He's more of a quiet guy, like lead by example. Then you got Drew Brees. He'll rip your ass a little bit. Drew Brees, I signed with them, and I go through OTAs. And after OTAs, like, hey, man, I really like what you've been doing. It's like, you should come out and throw in San Diego with me this offseason. It was me and Kobe Fleener, the 2 tight ends he liked at that point. And like, yeah, I'd love to. He's like, all right. He's like, I'll have my assistant reach out. Like, I was just going to grab a flight. So his assistant reaches out, buys me a round trip first class ticket, sets me up in a hotel on his dime, and he picked us up every morning in his Tesla and drove us to the field. So just so we could throw. I was out there for 5 days just so we could throw for an hour, 3 days, and he set us up with his workout facility so we get our workouts in. So that's the kind of guy Drew Brees is. Talk about a leader. He paid for everything, And me, I've never experienced anything like that. Back in Jacksonville, I remember going out to throw with Bortles, and I get there. I'm like, "Yo, are we throwing?" He's like, "God, no, we canceled today." I'm like, "What? I flew out here, bro. Like, I thought we were throwing. That's the whole reason I'm here is to throw." And then the next day we throw again. We finally throw. And he gets some routes in. I'm like, okay, it's a good day at work at least. And the following day, we're supposed to throw again. He's like, "Oh, man, sorry, I had too many beers last night." So I flew out to LA to throw with Bortles, and we got 1 day of throwing in. And I paid for everything myself. On the flip side, I go with Drew Brees, and he pays for everything and picks us up every morning, first class, both ways. I'm like, that's the difference, man. That's the difference right there. Stuff like that,
That's a great story. Who was the biggest? Do you have a good trash talk story, Clay?
I wasn't much of a trash talker, but
was there a guy who was talking trash that you just lit up on a block?
I don't remember any trash talk story. I do have a Tom Brady story.
All right, yeah, let's hear it.
So I'm with New England. I signed there, and we're in training camp, and Tom hops in the room, and well, first let me back up a little bit. So for the plays, New England's got a tough playbook, toughest playbook I've ever learned. I got really good at learning these. Just got to know. Most teams have 10 plays, maybe 15. You say one word. You say coffee. You got to know the play, the formation, the snap count, the route. For me, I'm just good at correlating things. So if you say the word or you say the play, green right 370, I'll say coffee. Green right 370, tree. Or you say okay, tree, and you have to say green right 373 white. So it's like you go back and forth. So we're playing one of those games. I don't remember which one. Tom comes in, and Brian Dable, who's actually up for some head coaching jobs this year's our tight end coach, and he's explaining a play to us, and he's like, "Hey, Tom, I want you to play this game with Clay." He's like, I bet you can't beat him. And he's like, "Come on, Dave's, I've been here for 18, 17 years, whatever." He's like, "No, he's really good at this game." He's like, "You're going to want to play him." And he's like, "Okay." So he comes in the room, and he's setting us up, and Dable does the games at green right. I'm like, tree. Okay. Blue right 370. Plant. Like, I know these plays, and I wrecked Tom probably like 5-2. We're playing to 5. I thought he was joking. He's runs out the room, slams the door. I'm like, is he serious? He's so mad. And then next day we're sitting in the tight end rooms again. We're going over plays. We got Gronk, Martellus Bennett. It's a hilarious tight end room, by the way.
Seriously.
Go back and forth. It was hilarious. We're sitting there, door opens suddenly. We're all startled. It's Tom. "All right, Clay, let's go." I'm like, "What? Like, what's happening right now?" And he makes me play. He's like, "Dable, let's go, the game. Let's go." And he starts reading them out, and Dable's picking through the list. He's like, "All right, we have tree, green, Tom wrecks me 5-0. That's right, mother leaves on the door. And I'm like, he was really serious. He was so upset that I beat him. He's so competitive. He went home. He studied. He came back and made it a point to let me know that there's no way I could beat him in that game.
That is an incredible story. And then what were your feelings when that happened? Were you just like...
I was just shocked. I was like, what happened? I'm like, I don't know what happened. I'm like a little bit upset with myself that I couldn't get one, and I'm playing against Gronk, Martellus, all the tight ends. I'm winning. Nobody can get a word in. And then Tom comes in and just wrecks me. Yeah, it was crazy. So, I was pretty disappointed in my performance, but I'm like, yo, this would be a funny story to tell my kids.
Clay, have you seen do you remember it was a TMZ video. It was maybe like a year before you got there, maybe like 2015, where Gronk spikes the roses in front of all the paparazzi.
No.
Yeah, okay, well, it was a great video where paparazzi catches him, TMZ coming out of a bar, and he's like, "Let's go for a run," and they follow him along, and he's just doing Gronk stuff for 3 minutes, and it's really funny. I was showing that to my sister yesterday because she's a little younger than I am, but she loves Gronk. She thinks he's really funny, and she was like a little not shocked by it, but she's just like, "Oh my gosh!" And we were saying that it seems like Gronk is out of his peak partying days right now. Like it seemed like when you would have been there, that's when he was probably having the most fun out there. It
Probably
seems
right
like he's
before I got there.
retired a little bit.
Yeah, he's got a girl now. Yeah, Gronk. I was always impressed with how he could party and then come back and just play well, man. He's unbelievable in that way. A lot of guys can do that. I remember Brent Selleck would be out a lot. He for a couple of years, and he settled down and got married. But a lot of these guys could play, man. They could go out and hang out, and then they'd still be able to play and crush a game.
Now it's 2016. Patriots end up winning the Super Bowl. However, you weren't there for the Super Bowl. Did you get a Super Bowl ring?
I didn't get a Super Bowl ring. I got paid for I got to double dip, and I got paid for all the playoff games in the Super Bowl just because I had played at least 4 games. But I never got the ring. Most teams would give you a ring for that, but the Patriots never did.
Wow, I'm sorry to bring that up. Then I apologize.
Yeah, you're hitting a sore subject there. I'm gonna go cry after this.
Okay, so you got hurt in 2017, right? That's what you were on IR in 2017. That Saints team, though, that was a devastating way to end a season.
Man, yeah, I got hurt. The final preseason game was on IR. Was going to be a decent little package in the system, and got hurt, man. But that was I was on the team the whole year there, and tough way to lose in that Minnesota game when the guy missed that play, missed that tackle. That was tough.
So then you end up on the Bachelorette of all things. How did that come to fruition?
This is a random thing, man. They hit me up, and I told them I was a football player, and I'm like, no, you don't really have to do much. You just have to show up for the final casting, and we'll get you on the show. Showed up for the final casting. Like, we want you to come on. I'm like, yeah, I probably got maybe 2 years left in the league at this point, I'm thinking, and then maybe this could lead to maybe some sort of job, maybe be a commentator or something. I don't know, maybe some kind of, sports analyst or something, I'm thinking.
Like Jesse Palmer, Jordan Rodgers.
Exactly. And that's what I saw. And I'm like, yeah, maybe I could, find my person there. I'm a single guy. I wouldn't be opposed to meeting someone on a TV show. I think it'd be a funny story. I think it's possible. Didn't know much about the show and went on and ended up actually getting hurt. So I broke my wrist on the show, and I rehabbed that. And then that following year, so I was on IR that whole year with the Saints. And that following year, I get a few workouts, right? My first one's with the Bills. So I go to Buffalo, beginning of 2018 season, and coaching staff, it's just me, like, healthy and in shape. We're going to sign you. Like, perfect. I am. And I'm on the field during my workout and tore my groin. And tore my groin. I was out for the whole season, basically. Team called during the year, hey, is Harbor available? We need a tight end. Agent's like, yo, he's not ready. He's injured. And after that year, trying to get back after being on IR and then missing a year because during my workout I tore my groin was difficult. So that's basically how my career ended there.
Yeah, I remember when you got injured on the show. It was one of the few seasons of The Bachelorette that I've actually watched. It was actually a pretty good season. I thought your season was good cast of characters.
Yeah.
But I remember you got injured and they were playing a pickup football game and you got hurt in that game. There are all kinds of conspiracy theories that Clay didn't actually get hurt. They signed him to a contract to be on X number of episodes and they needed to find him a way to get off the show or he quit. But that was a real injury, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a real injury. Honestly, that whole thing was actually a legit injury. Unfortunately, I wish it wasn't. But yeah, that actually happened. I actually got hurt in the Bachelorette. So that's pretty comical.
How did being on a show like The Bachelorette or Bachelor in Paradise, how did that change your life? Because I think what's really interesting is you were someone who had been in the public eye you're a professional athlete for a decade of your life. Professional athletes are celebrities for maybe they're not celebrities, but they're notorious, they're famous. And then you go onto this show and you're obviously being exposed to a different portion of the population who otherwise might not know who you are. But then you've got all these other guys who do the reality circuit and they don't have the kind of resume that a Clay Harbor has, and yet they're getting all kinds of fame.
Yeah, I'm not. I think that The Bachelor is definitely an interesting. I had no idea when I entered that world what I was getting myself into. I literally, no, I didn't even know. I didn't even have my Instagram was private. I didn't know about any of this stuff. Honestly, I didn't know people would get paid to do appearances, deals, and stuff like that. It was just I thought it would be cool and it could lead to maybe like an announcing job. And yeah, I think that as far as the reality TV thing goes, it's not as people aren't as interested in an actual is like the backstory. The career aspect is basically who's basically who's more likable and who's better on camera, and that's what it comes down to. And it's a game all in the same. It's if you who can do better on the show, and that's the people that the fans like, and then the people that get a lot of these endorsements and stuff. So it's an interesting world there in Bachelor Nation. I know we have a mutual friend in Garrett, and I think Garrett isn't really a big reality TV guy. Doesn't like to consider himself a reality TV star, and I don't either, but it's basically it's something that we're definitely known for. And it's crazy because I spent such a long time in the NFL, and I'm probably known more for the show than my football career, which is pretty funny to me.
Yeah, you're actually the third Bachelorette dude that I've had on this show. I've had Garrett, I've had you, and I've had Jordan Kimball, who defended your honor on Bachelor in Paradise.
That's funny. Jordan's a trip. Love that guy.
What happened on Paradise? Because he told his version of the story where he stepped in there, and he did admit, he said, I went on Paradise the first time, taking it seriously, looking for love. He's like, second time, it was just total antics. I wanted to make the best television. So he steps in there, decides he's going to wreck this guy's piñata, and then gets in a physical altercation that gets kicked off the show. I want to hear it from your perspective. What were you watching when all that happened? What were your thoughts?
I thought the same thing. I thought Jordan was trying to do something funny. He's kind of a class clown, and he wanted to make a splash. He wasn't there just to sit on the sidelines and not get any do anything fun. So I think Jordan had a plan to go in there and do something fun, crazy. He knew he was probably going home that night. He didn't have really a girl he was talking to, so he wanted to make a splash, and I think he did. He went out with a bang, and a lot of people were talking about that when it happened. So I think he did what he set out to do, and he's a funny guy, and I think that was part of his plan. He was going home. He went out with a bang, so that's what Jordan wanted to do. I think he's engaged now, or his girlfriend. I follow him on Instagram, so happy for him.
Yeah, he's engaged. He's living in Houston now. He made the move from Florida. But Paradise, he was saying, was much more stressful, not as much fun as being on The Bachelorette. Did you have a similar experience?
I think Paradise was probably more fun and more stress. But it's just so much time that you're doing stuff there. And I thought Paradise I wasn't on The Bachelor for long. I was only there for a few weeks, so I didn't get to travel or do anything crazy. But I thought Paradise was funner because you could sit around with your friends and drink margaritas. But I mean, they are trying to stir up drama and stuff, and you have a bunch of people there, men and women, and everybody's looking for girls and guys, and it's just it's a lot going on there. But I thought it was pretty fun. Stressful too, though, for sure.
Now you're retired from playing football. Well, I guess the XFL could get going again. Maybe you want to. Would you give it a run at the XFL if they get it going a year from now?
I might, man. When I signed with the XFL halfway through the season, and near the end of the season, didn't know it at the time.
Right.
And, you have to sign with the Team 9 for like 10 days or something before you can sign with the team. And right before I was up to sign with the team, COVID canceled the season. So I never got to actually sign with the team in the XFL. And at that point, I was still like, dude, I'm 33. I'm about to be 35 now. If I throw out some good tape and show that I'm healthy, after that groin tear and everything, then maybe I can have another chance to get back in the league. That was my thought process, show them that I'm healthy and everything. And now if XFL, I might think about it. I'm 35. I'm still in shape though, but I mean that's getting up there in age. But who knows? I won't shut the door completely. People will be like, this guy's crazy. Why is he still trying to play football? Financially, I save my money. I'm, pension, whatever. And this guy's going back to play in the XFL. Like, what's going on? But I love football. And I don't know, if I go out there and start training again and feel like I still got it, I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to it.
Are you retired from reality television?
Yeah, I retired from reality television as well. It's definitely a closed chapter in my book.
All right, I got a few more here for you. Some of the listener questions. Hannah Schaub wants to know who your closest friends are from the Bachelor franchise.
My cousin's hanging out over here. I would be remiss.
Does he want to say hey? Does he got some sports takes?
Yeah. Come give us your take. He was just at the Eagles game. Give us a live.
Come on in,
Andrew. I'd say grocery store Joe. Blake Hortzman. But yeah, Andrew, say what's up, man.
What's up, Andrew?
How we doing?
You lose your voice?
I did. I was at the game.
Bend down so you can see yourself. Yeah, there you go. All right.
Andrew Spencer, right? That's your name?
Yeah.
Andrew Spencer, you were just on The Bachelorette, like this past year, right?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, so tell us what you thought of the Eagles game firsthand. I mean, it started off slow, but they ended up coming back and winning. What do you think? The Birds for real?
I think Eagles are a second-half team, literally in the game and also, like, just in football, like, when they're trying to get to the playoffs, they always play better in the second half of the season. But I still like the booing thing you guys were talking about. It's actually kind of ridiculous. Jalen Reagor was getting hammered yesterday.
During the punt returns.
Yeah, and just every time he came out of the stadium, they booed him. He stepped foot on the field, they booed him. And then he had that really monster punt return, which was really cool to see that.
What happened when he got the punt return? Did people?
Oh, they were cheering.
Were they cheering?
Yeah, they were cheering. But that's kind of how Philly does it, man. They're going to bully you to success. So they did it with the running the ball. Remember, the fans were screaming, "Run the ball!"
And they finally started running the ball. And the best rushing team in the league.
Yep. So that's Philly. It sucks, but it's pretty cool. It was a fun experience. So good game.
Yeah, his best friend, T.J. Edwards, the starting middle linebacker, had 16.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, I dropped 16 on him yesterday.
So yeah, him and TJ grew up together. Andrew actually played football. He was in camp with the Browns, but was Division II Player of the Year at Winona State.
Ooh.
In college as a safety.
Got the whole stats,
and was on camp with the Browns, and then did some spring league stuff around the football and stuff. And now he plays in Europe.
I wish I had brought him in earlier. We could have had him this whole time.
Yeah, I don't think he's. He hasn't got the attention span for an hour plus of.
I just flew into him.
Yeah,
I can't talk
either. Yeah, but yeah, it's Andrew, the closest guy to the Bachelor. Obviously, my cousin. We'll let him go get some rest. But
thank you, Andrew.
Yeah.
That's my guess. The guy was knocking on the door, so we'll let it slide because it's Andrew.
So you mentioned him, Joe. Who else?
Say Joe, Blake. Let's see who else we got. Chris Bukowski, Dustin Kendrick. I can't not say Dustin. Dylan Barber. Mike Johnson's a good buddy.
All right, very cool. We got a few more here. I think I know the answer to this, but Hannah also wanted to know, her other question was, did you enjoy the Bachelor franchise of the NFL more? I think I know the answer to this one.
Yeah, NFL, for sure.
Yeah.
Easy answer.
Okay. Olivia Frank wants to know, in what ways have you been able to impact people positively with the platform that you now have from being on the show and having a big social media following?
Yeah, I do a lot of fitness stuff. Post a lot of free workout videos, and if people's trying to get in shape, they can follow my Instagram. I'm always posting a story or a reel or something to do with fitness to show how to work out and my favorite and best workouts I like to do.
Question about you leaving the show. You were injured, and I guess it's not like, like on Survivor, someone gets injured and maybe they carry them out of the show because of the physical issues, or maybe they do that on the challenge, but it's not a physical show on The Bachelor. You were injured and you're like, I gotta get better. I gotta try to get ready for the season. Was it, I guess the one thing I'm curious to know is, you get on a show like The Bachelorette, you're only introduced to one girl. Was it when you got to know Becca and you kind of had a feeling of how things were going, were you just kind of like, okay, you know what? Probably not going to be my wife, even if I stay on this show. Did you have any kind of feeling of like that, or were you really vibing with her, really digging her?
For me, it was early, but I really felt like I think it was early, but I thought that Becca was a really cool girl, and I could definitely have saw myself like starting to have more feelings for her. But I remember being upset when I left. Honestly, I was like, damn, I really want to see where I went with her, and I was really upset about it.
Clay, I know you have this. This is the last thing I have for you. In your Instagram bio, you have the following Bible verse, 2 Timothy 1:7. For the Spirit God gave us does not make us timid, but gives us power, love, and self-discipline. Why that verse?
I just think that's great. It's always my favorite verse. It's obviously said different in different translations, but
yeah,
power, love, and sound mind. I think that's something that I strive to have, and not of fear, and that goes a long way. Because I was playing football, like God doesn't give you the power of fear. If you're nervous or something before a game, read that verse. It's like, hey, let's go. Self-discipline, sound mind. Like, let's play. It's just something that you can put into a lot of aspects of your life, even if you don't believe in God or Bible or Christianity. I think it's something cool that you can learn a lot from verses like that, and I think it can help a lot of people in a lot of different ways. And for me, it was always a verse that I wanted to read before I went on the field. Hey, there's no fear. It's all power, love, and sound mind.
Clay, how did you come to know Christ?
Just as a young guy, my grandma growing up in a small town, Illinois, just always would teach us and would read to us and all that good stuff. She was a Southern woman, and she's from Arkansas, Mississippi, and she would always read us the verses and make sure that before every meal that we would have to say grace. She's a Southern, like I said, Arkansas. It was just funny how she was a character, but yeah, she always made sure to instill that into us.
Were you in a small group Bible study with Nick Foles and some other guys in the league?
Yeah, we would do that every Thursday. There was a Bible study every Thursday after class, probably be about 20 of us in there. We'd all go. We'd have a different pastor, preacher every Thursday would come in and speak to us. And I remember, obviously Nick Foles is, really, really big Christian, and he'd be in there taking notes. Jason Avant is always a guy that was a preacher for the team, but we'd have a different preacher come in and just lead us on, our little Bible study every Thursday. Big group of guys would usually turn out, so that was always good.
Awesome. Well, Clay, thank you so much for your time. I apologize if we ran a little long. This was a fantastic time talking. What are you working on right now that you'd like to plug? How can people follow you? What are you up to right now that you'd like to promote while you're here?
Oh man, you can just follow me on Twitter, Instagram, all that good stuff. I have my fitness class, Fitness at the Park. We're doing a class next week in 2 weeks actually in the Sears Tower. If you're around Chicago,
Ooh.
just follow at Fitness at the Park on Instagram, and we will be doing a Fitness in the Sky, and that's something cool that we got coming up. But yeah, if you speaking, I have a couple events for the Illinois Principal Association. I like to do some keynote motivational speaking. ClayHarborOnline.com is my website for that. But besides that, nothing, man. I appreciate you having me on. It was good talking to you.
Yeah, it was great. God bless you, Clay.
Thanks, Jack. You have a good day, boy.
Well, that concludes my conversation with Clay Harbor, former NFL player, 9 years in the league and 2 years on reality TV. Now he's killing it as a performance coach. Make sure you guys follow him on Instagram and Twitter. I believe he's at Clay Harbs on Instagram. Not sure what his Twitter is. I'll put that in the notes for this show. But yeah, it was great talking with him. A lot of good football. We've got our college football playoff coming up later this week. And so make sure you guys check in next week when we recap and talk college football playoff. I would think Andrew Stem will probably be joining me. Can't say for certain, but we're going to have some more great guests here in the future as well, regardless of if Andrew shows up or not. I mean, Andrew's a great guest, but we had Brad Culpepper last week, and we're going to have some more really great guests here in 2021. I hope everyone had a Merry Christmas and remembered that Jesus is the reason for the season. I sure had a great time with my family. So make sure, if you guys enjoyed the show, subscribe to the Jack Vita Show on Apple Podcasts, here on YouTube, Spotify, or wherever it is that you get your podcasts. Please leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. That'll do us a lot of good. And until our next episode, I'm Jack Vita. Bring in the dancing lobsters.